Hello, everyone. Welcome to LexTalk World's talk show presented by Clickaway Creators. Today, we have Ms. Letícia Baddauy with us. She is founder partner at Baddauy Law Firm, Brazil. Thank you so much for joining us, Letícia. We are pleased to have you with us today.
It's my pleasure, and it's really a great honor to be here, to have this opportunity to talk with LexTalk.
It is a pleasure for us as well to have you on board. And this is going to be a great session where we will be able to learn out of your experiences and out of your expertise. This interview will be available on across social media platforms as well as on our website. So we are really looking forward for a lot of people to come and learn from your expertise and your experiences. I would like to start by asking the first question, which is about your personal and professional background. So if you can please brief us about your personal and professional journey so far in the legal space, please.
Yes, for sure. First of all, I think that the most important thing to begin with is knowing that I really like to study. Yeah, I am a daughter of two professors, and I created this habit. It was like the gift they gave me. So when I decided to go to college to study law and business, because I have these two graduations, I wanted to be in the best schools of Brazil. So I lived in Paraná, and I live here again. I came back home, but I went to São Paulo. First, I graduated in business at Fundação Getúlio Vargas. That is our best school here in Brazil. And then I graduated in law at São Paulo University. That is also, like a top of our schools, our law schools here. So knowledge, studying, research were always things that attract me a lot. Then I came back to Londrina, and here I'm also a professor, and I began to work with my father in our family law firm. And last year I decided to create my own law firm. After more than 20 years of experience, I decided to create my own law firm, especially focused in arbitration and dispute resolution.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we are speaking to someone who comes from a family of professors, and you are yourself a professor, and you really value the education, the study, and that's the core, I think, of your overall journey. Thank you so much for briefing us about that. Moving ahead, and I would like to move on to the second question now, since you started your law firm a year back, and that specifically focuses on arbitration and dispute resolution. So we can't have someone better than you to talk about this. We would like to know how legal sector, and specifically arbitration and dispute resolution in the Brazil region, is impacted due to COVID-19, and what solutions do you foresee from a legal perspective?
I think that we should separate the arbitration from the state courts litigation in Brazil to talk about the impact of COVID. Arbitration didn't stop here. It was really surprising how fast the chambers, the institutions dealt with this problem and turned all the proceedings in remote proceedings. It happened with the whole world. So we have many guidelines, all the arbitration community in the whole world and here in Brazil also dedicated time and attention in litigation. I think it's mainly talking about technology. I was very positively surprised by the speed that how the institutions and the chambers were so proactive and so fast in solving this issue. We turned the proceedings in remote proceedings, and as it was and is, still is a concern of the whole international arbitration community, we developed remote proceedings based on data protection, We had some guidelines written by international institutions, and Brazilian institutions were aware of it. So the arbitration just didn't stop in Brazil. It was something very effective, this digital transformation here. Talking about litigation, I think that Brazilian state courts did very well too. We had also remote hearings. We have already here in Brazil since 2006 a totally electronic procedure. So it was not so difficult to change, to turn the key. The only problem is that there is a paradox when you talk about litigation. Many people here still don't have access to technology or to good technology. So that is something, that's a challenge to profit from this digital transformation without excluding people. So, and I think this is mainly a concern of our state courts, our litigation here.
Okay, fantastic. So I think you talked about the solution and the problems at the same time. So everybody knows the problem, how it was impacted. And the right thing I think that you talked about is that how the government or the authorities came up to the curve very quickly. They understood the problem. And since they were using technology already for litigation and arbitration, it did not really make a huge impact. But the problem is that not everybody is tech savvy or has the technology to use that. So that's a problem at the second end. But the right thing is, and I think I'm hearing it for the first time, that the arbitration and litigation did not get impacted at all because of COVID-19. Otherwise, I keep hearing, even from some of the most developed countries, I keep hearing the lawyers stating that there has been some problem, the courts are not opening, and we kind of keep getting the backlog of cases, and it's kind of really mounting up. But I think the way Brazil has kind of handled this situation, as far as at least in the law fraternity is concerned, a commendable job done by the legal fraternity and the Brazilian courts.
That's my feeling, including the Brazilian state courts. That is something that could be very surprising for some jurisdictions.
Absolutely. I'm sure it is surprising, and it is also, something that you can look up to, something that you can learn from, and you can develop yourself in the similar fashion. Thank you so much for sharing such great insight on that particular question, Letícia. I'd like to move ahead, and I'd like to ask you, do you think there should be more diversity in international arbitration?
Yes, I think it for sure, but especially it's not something that only I say something in my mind, I just think so, but something that we can feel, and now with some surveys, we can really show it with data that we don't have enough diversity. And when I talk about diversity, I mean gender diversity, but I also mean racial diversity and even geographic diversity. There is a very recent report by ICCA, a very important one, that shows us with numbers and data that we have few women, few Asiatics, few Africans, few Black people dealing with arbitration as advisors or as arbitrators. So there is a lot of work to do, although we have already made the first and second and third steps, because we are really discussing it in our arbitral community, including in Brazil. I take part of a group that is developing this kind of survey here with our Brazilian institutions, arbitration institutions.
Okay, fantastic. That sounds like a nice plan, and it really looks like that you have been working on this greatly. Thank you so much for sharing that insight with us. Moving ahead, and I'd like to move on to the next question of the session. And here we would like to know your advice on how important is the legal advice in agribusiness nowadays.
That's something very important to me and my firm, because we are specialized in agribusiness. In agribusiness in Brazil is something huge. It's our main trade is related to agribusiness. And we are also a big player in international trade in agribusiness, side by side with US, China. And what happened in the last decade is that we grew a lot, and agribusiness has grown a lot in the whole world, because in some years we will have to feed 10 billion people in the world. So we have every day on the newspapers, on social media, we are talking about agribusiness. With this development, agribusiness turned into something very sophisticated. So what I feel is that we need more legal support to walk side by side with all this development, all this technology revolution in agribusiness, because contracts became more sophisticated. So more and more, even little farmers need assistance, need lawyers, need counselors to be side by side with them, to profit the opportunities, take the correct chances, have less risks with the transactions. I feel that the industry of agribusiness is now very sophisticated, and it needs more than ever legal support, legal advice.
Absolutely true. You rightly said that we have to feed so many people in the world, and that's why agribusiness has been kind of rising and rising in last decade. And it's not just Brazil, it's everywhere in the world. And in order to make it more sophisticated, in order to make it more successful, the right legal advice and the right legal practices are very much required. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts on that particular question. Now, with that, we move on to the last question of this session. Here, we would like to know, what are your 3 core values that you truly believe in?
It's a very tough question, because it's very easy to say my values are family, love, and peace. But I was thinking about what really matters in any kind of relationship, in close relationships, less close relationships, business relationships, neighbor relationships, or family relationships. I think there are some values that we can have on the table for all kinds of relationships and negotiations and spaces. And they value in Brazil, in the US, in Canada, in India, everywhere. One of them is ethics. Although it's something that is very polemic, what is ethics? We have many philosophers talking about it, but I think everyone has a kind of intuition and know what is ethic or not. So ethics is very important. You can have established any kind of relationship without ethics, because without it, you don't trust the other one on the other side on the table. So ethics is the number one. For me, commitment is also very, very important. I understand that when you are committed with something like a project or a company, or with someone like your husband, you really do your best. If you have commitment, you are you are a whole person there in that relationship or that job, and you are able and capable to do your best. And the third one, respect. And respect means respect to the position of the other person, the opinions, the color, the faith, just respect. I don't like the word tolerance only to express it. I prefer respect, because sometimes tolerance can be something that means I don't like it, just tolerate this thing because I have to be politically correct. I think respect goes far than this, goes further. So ethics, commitment, and respect, I think that if you have these three values in our relationships and jobs and projects. And if in everything we do, we can live very well, we can get along well with everyone, being someone that you love or someone that you dislike.
Absolutely true. I think these three values are not just for if you're into a legal profession or any other profession, but wherever you are, in whatever trade of life that you are into, these are very helpful. And my favorite was respect. I always feel that you should treat others the way you want to be treated. And that's where the respect comes into the picture. So if you want to be treated well, treat others well, and they will automatically treat you well. And that's how you start respecting each other as a culture. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights with us on all those questions. I really enjoyed this interview, and I'm sure our viewers are also enjoying this interview, and they're also taking a lot of takeaways and notes out of this and learning out of this interview. So thank you so much, Letícia, for sharing such great insights with us. We look forward to having a chat with you again in the future on some other trending topics in the international legal fraternity. For our viewers, if you like this chat, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Clickaway Creators, on YouTube to appreciate what we do and have more coming from the industry leaders. This is Vinay for LexTalk World.